I didn't have a table.
All right, everybody.
So then
I think it is time for us to get started. So, first of all, welcome to Friday night. The fun begins. Really appreciate everyone coming out, especially you entrepreneurs. It's been a long week, and mentors. Thank you. Some of you coming from quite a distance, so thank you so much. We've got a bunch of folks online as well. So I'm really excited about this session. You can see Logan Higuera is on the screen here. I'm going to do a quick intro of him. Logan and I go way back to a conference less than 1 month ago. We were at GCEC in Dallas, right? And I saw Logan present, and I was so blown away by what he was talking about that I just asked him on the spot if he would share his wisdom with us. So really delighted to introduce you to Logan Higuera. He's originally from Pittsfield, Mass. He went to the University of Tampa as an entrepreneurship major. Whoa, entrepreneurship major. And we don't have that here, Logan. Not yet. Thank you. Thank you. And he's become a program manager, or has been a program manager for Plan Your Start since 2020. Where he consults with startups across a bunch of industries. He's been involved in capital campaigns there. He's also an entrepreneurial coach at the University of Tampa. And it sounds like he's been coaching teams who have been winning a lot of prizes, so good on you, Logan. He's also himself the founder of a company called OpenOcean, which is working on making accelerators and incubators like ours run more smoothly. So for any of you who've had any challenges with multiple logons and different software platforms, Logan has something to sell you. Lastly, Logan is himself, he's going to be talking about no-code development today. He is a top 10% bubble developer, one of the leading no-code platforms. And lastly, he's a venture scout for a company called Venturous that helps startups connect to their ecosystems around them. So a gentleman who's steeped in startups. Logan, welcome. And you have kind of assembled thought into action community here, a bunch of mentors, a bunch of student entrepreneurs, some alumni entrepreneurs are in the house as well. So thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me. I'm super glad that we got to connect probably exactly a month ago and got to pull all this off in a short amount of time. So thank you everyone for coming. When I do the presentation a little bit, I'm going to put all of my contact information and everything in there. So I'm always happy to connect with other people, answer any other questions offline. I think Travis actually mentioned we may do another follow-on Q&A as well. So feel free to reach out to me however you want to. And then I just want to encourage everyone while we're going through this to basically get engaged, answer questions, chime in. We want to make this interactive and basically this is all for you to teach you. So if you have any questions while we're going through some of this stuff, please just shout them out or put it in the chat, or if you want to hold it for a pause point, there will be a few times where I'll pause and ask for questions. So
hey, Logan, let me just echo something he said. I meant to say it at the outset. Logan graciously offered, because today is going to be chock full of information to learn. I'm hoping that some of you may decide to try some of these tools. And Logan has offered to meet again after you've had a chance to get your hands dirty, because you probably will have different types of questions at that point. So just know that offer is out there, and we'll schedule it if there's demand for that. Thanks, Logan. Take it away.
Sure thing. Is this a good voice level for everyone in the room? Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So I will share my screen. Can everyone see that? AI and no code tools? Yeah. All right. Sweet. So as you all know, this session is going to be about AI and no code tools for startups. So we're basically going to break it up into two different presentations almost, because that's what it originally was two full-length presentations. we kind of condensed it into one, where I do a little bit of merging of both. And so the first half will primarily focus on AI, and then we'll convert over to no code. So this is going to be the agenda. We're going to start with AI, like I just mentioned. Really, I want to spend like as little time as possible talking about these tools and boring you with the details. And I'd rather spend the most amount of time doing an actual activity with you all and really engaging, having us work together on an actual startup with AI tools. Same thing for no code. We're going to do an overview, but then hopefully spend the majority of the time actually building something with a tool here today. And then, as I said, after we'll do plenty of Q&A, and if we don't have enough time, we'll schedule another call, and anyone can reach out to me individually as well. So as Travis mentioned, that's a little bit about me. If anyone wants to scan this QR code, it should take you to all of my like website and LinkedIn and everything. I'll also have this again at the end, so I'll give you a few seconds to scan if you want to, but if you don't get a chance now, it will be at the end of the presentation as well. All right. Cool. So let's hop into it. So I thought it'd be cool to really give a definition of AI using AI. I think it gives it an extra layer of how this all works. So I think a lot of people have probably learned a little bit, at least, on what the different AI tools and have heard of ChatGPT. I'm going to use Google Bard, which is ChatGPT's basically biggest competitor from Google. I don't really have a preference, and I don't use them on a super complex level to where it necessarily matters for me. And I'll talk more about like how that matters later on. But basically, what I wanted to do was give you a definition here. And so I asked Google Bard what AI or artificial intelligence was, and to give an example. But then when I realized the first time that I did this, the example was this, and it was a little bit more wordy and pithy than I had hoped originally. So I then asked it to give me a definition that I could explain to my grandpa. And I think what this does, and I'll let you read them in your own, I won't read them back to you, but what this does is it kind of showcases the power of AI in my opinion, which is you can use it to go as specific and complex as possible, or to go in the reverse and give you as basic and simple as possible. So it's really good at taking information and going either way with it. So either expanding or focusing in. So I think most people see AI in one of these two ways, right? So we have on at least my left here, this more optimistic, hopeful version of the future where AI is going to improve all of our lives and simplify things. And then on the right, we have more of the doomsday dystopia, scary end of the world view of AI. And I'm hoping, since everyone's here is entrepreneurial and in this session, that we're all leaning towards this way. And so that's what I'm going to plead a little bit of my case on here, is why it's a thing that's going to help us in the future.
Logan, so sorry to interrupt. Are you able to go full screen on your side? It's a little hard to read over here. I'm just trying to see if we can make it a little bigger. If it's possible, great. If it's not, no problem.
Yeah. Does it just help if I zoom in a little bit? Like that?
Hit F11.
I'm on a Mac.
You know the Mac shortcut?
The green bubble.
Are you seeing like this top part here? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. We're just trying to get as much screen as we can, but it's cool. Keep if it's not obvious, we can just keep going. I'll make the screen just a little bit larger.
Okay. I'll try to zoom in on stuff too. So all this is pretty small text, so I'll kind of just summarize it because it's not necessarily important anyways. But when we talk about the history of AI, it actually goes back pretty far. Some people will say it goes back to the 1950s. And it's kind of interesting to think about because, at least for me and most people I know, you didn't really think about AI until what, like 9 or 12 months ago. So you may have like heard it before, but really didn't come up in conversation or get so popular until recently. So it's interesting to think about things like Siri and Alexa that we all know. But why is it now just so popular out of nowhere? And what I see the reason for that is for obviously ChatGPT. And so I think this graphic really puts it into perspective how big of a thing that this was from ChatGPT and OpenAI launching that. You can see here that this is how long it took all these companies, which are all household names. We know we got Netflix up top, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. This is how long it took all of them to get to 1 million users. So up here we have like 3.5 years for Netflix. It took Instagram 2.5 months, which is the record up until the 5 days that it took ChatGPT to get to 1 million users. So that just really shows how far reached and like the impact it had on the world. And so I'm going to show this video and hopefully let me know if you can't hear it good on your end. But this is Steve Jobs talking about technology as a tool. And I think it really kind of encapsulates how I like to think about AI and how I think we all should. So let's see, make sure the volume's all the way up.
I remember reading an article when I was about 12 years old. I think it might have been Scientific American, where they measured the efficiency of locomotion for all these species on planet Earth. How many kilocalories did they expend to get from point A to point B? And the condor one came in at the top of the list, surpassed everything else. And humans came in about a third of the way down the list, which was not such a great showing for Crown of Creation. And but somebody there had the imagination to test the efficiency of a human riding a bicycle. Human riding a bicycle blew away the condor all the way off the top of the list. And it made a really big impression on me that we humans are tool builders and that we can fashion tools that amplify these inherent abilities that we have to spectacular magnitudes. And so for me, a computer has always been a bicycle of the mind. Something that takes us far beyond our inherent abilities. And I think we're just at the early stages of this tool, very early stages. And we've come only a very short distance. And it's still in its formation, but already we've seen enormous changes. I think that's nothing compared to what's coming in the next 100 years.
So hopefully you guys could hear that. To sum it up, this is Steve Jobs talking back in the 90s about how powerful technology is as a tool and what its use is in really evolving the human species. And I think he almost had some foreshadowing here into AI. It's almost like he knew back then what direction it was going to go in. And I really think that AI is just heightening that whole thought process of making us expert tool users. So this is just a quick graphic that shows a summary of different AI tools. And what I like about this is it shows them in different categories. So we have text-based AI tools, image-based ones, gaming AI tools. So we have different areas of it. And I like this a lot more than just thinking about like Google Bard versus ChatGPT, because and what we're going to talk about in a little bit is I like to really focus on how these tools are going to solve problems for us and how we can actually use them rather than just thinking about, oh, like I need to use AI, like what should I be doing? So coming from the opposite of approach of thinking about the problem and the needs you have and then addressing it with tools like this. And so when we talk about that, there's obviously a spectrum of how much you want to use AI in your business. And so it on the far left side, we have using it for just minor things. And that can be anything from helping us like filter data or using an AI chatbot on your website so that people can interact and ask basic questions if they need to without having a human actually answer all of those calls. Or it could be something as far as it's your core business model. You're building something that is completely leveraging or is a new form of AI. And so it's just interesting to think about the different ways that it can be interrelated. So that's all the background stuff. Hopefully, if anyone has anything else that they want to learn about that, we can talk about it after. But now we'll kind of hop into how this all applies, and we're going to actually build a startup in a second.
You guys ready to start up? Right.
All right, awesome. So for this section of it, the AI section, it's just helpful to think about how we're relating this. So I really think that one of the superpowers of AI for entrepreneurship is in the ideation process. So if anyone's familiar with IDEO, the firm that makes like new innovations out in California, a guy, I think his name's Dave Kelly. He's kind of just like a famous inventor. They put together a bunch of technology things that we use every day. And so they use this ideation process, and really what they always go back to is this divergent versus convergent thinking. So they say the process is always starting with ideas and then coming up with as many ideas as possible, as broad of ideas as possible. And then you need to get to that level where you can almost not even think of a new idea anymore before you start to converge the ideas and filter down and think about what ones make the most sense, which are most applicable. And so usually the way they talk about this is they say, bring together groups of people, at least 3 or 4 to do this. And what I think is cool about AI is now you basically have the power of hundreds, maybe thousands of people to help you with this divergent process so that you can kind of skip that step. And so what we're going to do here is start on Google Bard. So the background and the situation we're going to start with is that we're a college student. We have a budget of $2,000. We live in a semi-suburban neighborhood. We have a truck. Both of us have computers and phones, and we're really just looking to start a side hustle on the weekends to make some extra money. So what I'm going to do is copy this prompt. And what the prompt is taking all of this information, this factual stuff or background, and then putting it into a phrase or sentences, basically a way that I would explain it to another human. And so now we're going to go into Google Bard, and I'm just going to paste that in. So it's saying college student, suburban area, $2,000. And we're asking it to help us come up with 10 business ideas. So really quick, it gave us these 10 different business ideas. And so it gave us junk removal, handyman services, lawn care, power washing, moving services, furniture delivery, mobile car detailing, pet sitting, dog walking, and errand running. So those are things that we feel that any student could do on the weekends to make some extra money without having to go get a job with the resources that we had. And so now that we just showed all of those 10 things, if everyone has like their phone or some device and could take it out, we're going to vote now which one of those 10 things that we just showed we're going to use and kind of go through this practice with. So if you can scan that QR code, if it's too small or doesn't work, you can go to Slido, SLIDO.com, and then enter the code. I'll give everyone a couple minutes so that we can get a good amount of votes in.
We're seeing it live on the phone, but not on the screen.
Is it not updating fast enough? Let's see.
Doesn't. There.
Okay, sweet. Thanks for saying that. So, all right, it looks like junk removal 1. So, oh, getting a couple more. So we'll go with junk removal. And so now what we're going to do is use these 3 specific tools to do 3 specific things. So the first thing we're going to do is come up with a name for our new junk removal company. And so again, I'm going to ask you to kind of help out with this and crowdsource this as we go. So we're going to go to this company, namelix.com, and it's going to help us come up with a business name. So if people can put in the chat or shout out, basically we want words that are going to help talk about junk removal. So I'll just start with the obvious junk, and then anything else that people come up with, let me know.
Convenience.
Professional.
Recycle.
Recycle. Trash.
Was that?
Trash.
Trash. I like that. We could do one more, I think.
Clean.
Clean? Yeah. So, okay. So we're going to take that and now generate it. And so you'll notice with all of these, it starts with some information, and then it's going to ask us some questions. And so what it's doing is really just learning a little bit more about what we're trying to achieve. And so for this one, I'm just going to kind of do the standard for everything. So auto, we'll do right in the middle for randomness. And instead of house cleaning, we're going to do junk removal business. And so now takes a second, but now we have hundreds of names we can use. So we got Safe Clean, Clutter Busters, Maze Junk, Care Cleaner, Site Cleanup, Hooray Junk. So I'll kind of scroll through these. People want to like shout out or comment in the chat what ones pop out to them. We'll go with one of these that we can agree on.
Hey, a question for you. Has it checked this for copyright? Can you go back one screen? There's a checkbox.
Yeah, for like the domain.
Yes, it's not trademark, but he has domain
They
name.
were wondering if if it checks for trademarks.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I'm not sure if it does.
It
But
does not.
It certainly checks domains.
I can use this.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'd be willing to bet that it doesn't. So yeah, I think that's something where if like you like one of these a lot, then you might have to make sure that it doesn't exist currently.
Maybe the PTO doesn't have an API. Sorry about the acronyms.
Maybe, yeah. I would be surprised if they did actually. So, but I also bet somebody is probably scraping that pretty frequently, so they could. I'm not sure. It's a good question though.
Junk busters.
I like junk busters. For junk busters.
Yeah.
Junk busters. All right, we'll go with that one. I like that. So this is the name we'll go with, and so now that we got the name, we're gonna go into the logo. And so this one's called Luca, I think that's pronounced. And so now we have our name. It's Junk Busters. We're gonna get started. Again, we can do trash removal. I don't know if that comes up.
How about junk?
Junk
Junk
buster.
removal. There we go. Okay. And so again, now we're going to pick out some examples, and these don't have to be about like the words, or it can be anything that you like, whether it's the color or the fonts or the graphics. If there's anything you like, just shout it out and I'll select it. We can pick a few of these that we want to use as examples. Don't be shy. We need like 5 of these. So anything that you like.
One planet,
What?
one planet, the green one, lower left.
Oh, okay.
Probably don't trademark it.
Anything else? Nothing?
Very jumpy. How about wood bully?
Wood bully? Okay.
Well, it's not meant to be exact. It's just, you know,
Let's have that one.
Farm pack.
Sweet.
Itala collective there.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're
So
Good person.
somebody said
The
Catella.
peach one, yeah.
Okay. All right. Are we good on that?
yeah.
All right. So now we're gonna pick a color. Does anyone care about the color we're using here?
Green, green.
Green. I like that. It's like slime almost, right? All right. So
Ken put a slogan in the chat.
somebody put one already?
Who are you gonna call? Who are you gonna haul?
There we go.
Yeah, I like that.
Junkbusters.
If you're the business.
I'm a child of the '80s. What can I say?
It's Ghostbusters.
Oh, it might be too big. Let me get rid of these.
Maybe just who you're gonna call, haul.
I have friends who did when he got jumped.
Who's
I
gonna
have
haul?
another friend who knocked it off with college on solid jump.
All right. And then I think this is the last one. Any different like symbols or icons we want to do. So I'll start with truck.
Recycling.
Cycling.
The name was there. Convergent. There we go.
Doesn't exist.
Of course.
Anybody else?
It's too good.
It's too good.
We have a strain vote.
Yeah.
Strength,
I
I heard. All right. I'm gonna do delivery too, just because I feel like that could be related. So we'll do that. So now we'll give it a second. And so now it's going to come up with a bunch of logos that we can use for our junk removal business. So
The truck is good.
this one, I always think about this one too. So we can just like favorite the ones we like.
So that's a cool truck one too down
Another
there.
truck.
Right here. And keep generating them if we want to. And we don't necessarily have to like pick one, but basically the purpose of this was to just show kind of how we can go from just talking about it together or thinking about this as an individual alone, and have something pretty professional done within a few seconds, right? And so when you like, if we wanted to use one of these, let's say we like this initial one, we don't have to completely use exactly what it's got, but now we can actually customize this. We can change the icons. We can like regenerate based on if we want to add more keywords or a different slogan or whatever it is. So it helps us do that and iterate those revisions fast as well. So we'll move on to my favorite one, which I think is really remarkable. And so this one's called Durable. And now we're actually going to create a website for our junk removal business. So got this again. I'm in Florida, so we'll just do that. and what was it again? Junk
Junk busters.
busters. Yeah. Okay. So this one takes a little bit longer, as you might imagine. But you can actually see behind here, behind this like tinted background. Oh, that was fast. So now we have a junk removal website that we can use. And that's actually a pretty good background. There's a lot of junk there that I'd want to get rid of if that was my house. And so I'll just scroll through the website. It gives us a full landing page that we can use. It looks like maybe it lost this part, so it didn't come up with anything here. And so if you noticed, on each of these sections that we have, it has this regenerate option. And so what we can do to continue iterating this is we can generate the content, the style, what we want, and then we can even go in and customize any of these things to our liking. So it just comes up with that initial idea and lets us go from there. So the way I think about it is it's basically skipping over from like step 0 to 1. So now we're just starting at step 1, which we usually end up spending a lot of time going from 0 to 1 just to have something, and then it gets easier as we go. So it's taking care of that, one of the top steps that we need to go over. This part's a little bit questionable as far as ethics go. I think coming up with like testimonials from customers, maybe it's just there for an example, but obviously if it's a real business, you'd want to replace those with real testimonials when you get them. But yeah, so as you can see, we got a full business. It's a pretty solid landing page from what you would pretty much expect to see, I think, from a junk removal business. It's probably actually a lot better than junk removal businesses in many areas, because I highly doubt those people are usually technical, which I'm not super technical either, but this kind of shows how we don't even need to be technical anymore to do this. So cool. So hopefully that was helpful. These are 3 tools that anyone can use that are free to start with. If you end up needing the website or the name or logo, you can pay for them. And so now we're just going to go into a little bit more detail. I won't use all of these, but I'm just going to show you quickly some other examples.
Logan?
Yeah.
I have a question. You said that if somebody was ready to move forward with each of those, do you have ballpark figures for what each would cost for a logo, for the website, for that type of thing?
Yeah. So I think the name and the logo one are like you just purchase the rights to it basically. So when somebody asked if like the trademark, I think what happens is like you can purchase one of these and they won't suggest that anymore, and then it's basically like you're buying that name from them.
How much?
It's a good question. I know the logo one is like around 50. I don't know about the name one. I would imagine it's pretty cheap. I can check after. And then the website one is actually, their business model is a subscription one. So they basically handle like the domain and stuff. And it's kind of similar to Wix, if anyone's used that, where it gives you like a CRM and everything. So it does a little bit more on the back end. So I think theirs starts at like $20 a month if you wanted to create your website here. And then you can, anyone that contacts you or fills out your submission form or whatever, all of your contacts are stored on the back end of it. So another one is this legal robot. So if you needed contracts drafted, if you're now hiring college students to help you with your removal process and you start to scale, you may need to generate some contracts from them. Obviously, you still want to get a lawyer for the final things, but you're saving a lot of money by not having the lawyer actually draft all of that. Another one, and this one's actually a really popular tool called Jasper. Everyone needs to have marketing nowadays. So this basically takes care of your Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever social media marketing, or if you do blogs or paid ads, whatever type of content you need generated to market your business. This creates it for you. And then this one's really cool, and hopefully again people can hear it. So this one's called Air AI. It's a sales, it's basically AI salespeople for you. So I'm gonna play it out loud.
Hey, James. Yeah, no worries. I hate calls out of the blue too, but I'm actually from Apple, and I saw you were checking out Vision Pro and we're about to pre-order, but left the page.
Yeah,
I was curious, what did you looking into potential? Okay, I can respect that. Can I just ask one question before you go?
Fine, sure.
Why did you decide not to pre-order the Vision Pros? I saw you changed your mind last minute.
Because they are crazy expensive. I'm gonna get the medical instead.
I get it. But
So I won't go on. I think the conversation actually goes on for like 10 minutes, but for anyone that's done sales, it's just a numbers game, right? So you're literally calling hundreds of people to get somebody that will talk to you and then hopefully get them to that next step. And so you saw like the pushback like everyone would have on a sales call. But ultimately he just asked the right question, or the AI asked the right question at the right time with a pause. And this guy ends up like telling him everything about why he's purchasing and what he's looking for and the price he'd pay. And so ultimately at the end, he like decides to buy some Apple Vision Pros because this AI bot like knew exactly how to continue the conversation that long. So I think this one's like really kind of cool I'm excited to see like the future of how it works. If you can go from having like one or two salespeople to hundreds per second, that's going to be pretty crazy, especially if they sound as human as that one did. So those are the tools that we had to start with. I just want to give kind of a warning of all this. So we showed how like easy it could be to start a company like Junk Removal with this, where we could just come up with a name, a logo, a website. We could even maybe hire those salespeople to cold call like a whole neighborhood or whatever. And so for those examples, I think AI can be really powerful. But the way I feel about it is that the more innovative and kind of novel a business is, the less you might be able to do those types of things with. So you're still going to want to do research and customer discovery and spend a lot of time developing the more innovative your business is, because with these ones, basically the reason it works so awesome for them is because it's like just a really cheap and easy test. So you can throw that together in a minute or two, go out and see if people need junk removal services in your neighborhood. And so you're done. Like you tested it. If people buy it, then they buy it. But when you start to spend a lot of time and money developing a tech solution or something new to the market, I would kind of advise not to just throw it together with AI tools, but instead to do a lot of that research on your own. So that's all of AI. If anyone has any questions about specifically that stuff, we can pause for a second before we go into the no code area.
Can you talk about fact checking? Because early on I used ChatGPT to test out a business concept, and I phrased it the way you did. It came back with great factual information. I won't go into the detail of it, but then when it was all done, I shared it with Travis, and I said, "Look at this. AI generated a complete lie. Everything said was factually incorrect and a lie. It fabricated it." No, in your presentation here have you, I guess, used AI to fact check AI or come up with something that sorts out the garbage, literally, from our garbage removal business?
Yeah. So it's a great question, and there was a reason I didn't do anything in here that was like factual. Because like you said, I don't think it's at the point where we can fully trust it. First of all, I think most of the information that it's pulling from is a couple years old now. So if there's anything like recent happening, it won't have that information. And also, like I mentioned earlier, I really think that the power of AI is in like using it as like a brainstormer or idea generator and like kind of bouncing it off. Almost like I like to think of it as just another person that you can kind of bounce ideas off with. But when it comes to the facts and kind of the final product, I think that's where you really need to be more human touch, kind of check everything, polish everything. So again, it's not eliminating us as humans, it's just kind of streamlining how we get to the end product of whatever we're doing.
Unless you really like telemarketing.
Yeah.
We have is there an AI category that you really are excited about?
I think, I mean, for me, the sales one, like the voice sales one, is probably the most exciting, just because I mean, for me, like that's one of the hardest parts of what I do is like cold outreach. It's not fun. It's like time consuming. So just to imagine where a world where I could do that on like hyper speed to thousands of people at a time, it would just turn from me to basically like 1,000 times output of what I do. So that's like a biased personal preference, but yeah.
Does that sales AI give you an option to connect you to a human after the initial head call?
I don't know. I haven't looked into it enough to know kind of what the next steps are. I know they're in beta right now, so I don't even know if they're like fully launched yet. All right. So we'll get into no code a little bit now. This is the area that I'll say I'm definitely more expert in. I definitely want to share that, like, some of your questions, obviously I didn't have a perfect answer for. I'm not an expert in no code. I don't want to claim I am or anything. I just think that I'm a novice. I'm learning about it, and I think that's something that is important to come in with. You don't need to be an expert in any of these things, but the most important part is that you're not getting left behind. As long as you kind of know what's going on and know what's available to you, I think that's the important part. Okay, so now we're going to talk about no code. And so I'll read this because I know it was hard to read for some people. So no code is a type of software development approach that allows people to create applications without having to write code. So instead of writing code, the no code platforms use visual interfaces and drag and drop tools to create apps, websites, and other digital products. So hopefully everyone's still got their phones out. We're going to do one more of these kind of poll things, interactive. Oh. Okay, there we go. So we got another QR code. Here, maybe this actually helps. Oh, sorry. So the QR code or the slido.com, and then put in the number. So this could be anything. This could be like examples. This could be the benefits, the cons, whatever comes to mind when you think or hear no code, or if you haven't even heard of it before. I'd like to know that as well. I'm just going to read these. Programming without being a coder, accessible, easy, not complex. What is it? Awesome. Never heard of it. That's good.
Misnomer. Oxymoron.
Sweet. Okay. So yeah, I wanted to ask that to just get kind of a feel of how familiar people are. It's a very new kind of thing in this world, and it's something that I'm very grateful to have found early on. So we'll talk a little bit more about how I see no code and a lot of other no code experts see it. So there's different types of no code, and there's more than this, but the way I see it is there's kind of 5 main areas of no code tools. And so the first one is what I call website builders. So if you've ever used Wix or Squarespace or Webflow or Shopify, any of those like just kind of templates that you build a website on. The next is app builders. And so this is the one I tend to focus on the most. This is for basically complex applications that you want to build, things like Bubble, Glide, Adalo. There's also workflow automation no-code tools. So if anyone's heard of Zapier or Integromat or Microsoft Power, so these are basically tools that are connecting other tools. So you don't need to kind of build a script for whatever you're trying to automate. Then there are database and content management systems. So this is Airtable, Notion, WordPress sites. And then finally, there's design ones. So Canva, Figma, Sketch. These are basically tools for like primarily just design and front end stuff. So again, I have a little picture here that shows some breakdown of different ones. So there's obviously a bunch of different tools that you can use for a variety of things. There's some that are focused on mobile applications. There's some that are only used as the databases to power other no-code tools. There's productivity ones. So that gives you some examples. And the way I like to think about no code, it helps to give some different kind of analogies. So if we're thinking about commerce, and it goes way back to like barter and trade times, eventually we had currency, right? And then we're all probably in the case where we use our credit cards all the time, more than currency now. In the near future, we're probably all going to at some point be using just cryptocurrency or digital wallets, and not having any like cards or money or anything around us. In the same sense, when we talk about writing, there was a day when people were writing everything by hand, by like not even pencil. It was like what the graphite blocks that you'd be using. Then we had the printing press, which kind of revolutionized how information was shared. Ultimately, there were typewriters, so that brought that a little bit into the modern person's home. Now we just use cloud-based documents for everything, right? Like no one ever writes like documents or anything anymore. You're just on your computer or phone or wherever you are. So when we talk about software, when we go way back, this is like the first computers were whole rooms, right? And I don't know if anyone in here is old enough to like have that image in their head, but it's actually really not too long ago in the grand scheme of things. And what those computers were doing were really just complex math. Eventually we got to this point in the past 30 years or so where there's so many different types of software being developed that there's whole industries about it. And what is kind of crazy to me is that when we talk about software development, there's never just like a clear software development, right? So there's so many different languages and different things that we're using to develop software, I think there's over like 700 different languages that are used to create software now. And so what no code does, and the way I relate all this back, is that it takes all of these different languages that you'd have to learn and turns them into something we can all understand, right? So everyone knows this is a triangle, this is a square, and this is a circle. So that's turning the language into something visual that is universally understood. And so to give a concrete example of this, if we wanted to create one of the most simple things that we could build for software, which is just like a newsletter sign up. It's literally just one page with a title up here, somewhere where you put your email address, and one button. So there's literally 3 things on this page. All it does is capture your email address and sign you up for a newsletter. So if you wanted to create this from scratch using code, you'd have to know at least these 3 languages: CSS, HTML, PHP. And so however long it would take you to learn all of those and then figure out what exactly it wanted to look like. And so it would take you some time to create this whole page right here. What no code does is this. And so, yeah, hopefully, again, people can hear this.
All right, so we saw that just simple newsletter page that we had before. So now we're going to create this using a no-code tool called Bubble. So this is just a free basic account, right? When you first create it, this is what you'll see, just a blank page. And over here, we have all the elements that we can add. So first, we're going to add some text, and we're going to say news sign up. And it's a little small, so we'll just make it a little bit bigger. There we go. So that's the title of the page. And then we also need them to enter their email address. So we're going to add an input form here. And this is going to say, enter your email address. Finally, we need a button. So we're going to go back up here to button. And then right next to the input field, we're going to say submit. So those are the 3 things that we're going to have on the page. We can kind of play around with the design of it after, but just to show you kind of how all this works, this is where the user is going to enter their email address, and then they click that button to sign up for the newsletter. So you may be wondering, okay, that's cool, that's what it's going to look like, but how does it actually work? So if you see, we have here on the button, we can now add a workflow. And so that means when this button is clicked, we're now going to perform an action. And the action that we're going to do in this case is going to be categorized as email. And because I use MailChimp for my newsletter, as you can see up here, I just got my API key from MailChimp, and I already downloaded the MailChimp plugin, which was as easy as going in here and searching MailChimp and installing it. Now, what's going to happen is when we go back here to workflows, we do this action, and we are going to add an email to a MailChimp list. And what is the email that we're going to add? Well, it's going to be the value that's entered into that input, enter your email address. So that's it, it's just text. Once the user fills that out, and you click this submit button, it's going to send all that information to MailChimp to sign them up for your newsletter, and you're done. So we just built a newsletter sign up page in about 2 minutes using no-code tools.
So did everyone kind of grasp what we just did there? I know there was like a lot of stuff kind of happening fast, but really what we did was we created that page without ever having to write a single line of code, obviously. But the part that I think is so impressive and so cool is that when we're building things, it basically is built in our own mind. So we don't need to know any syntax or anything to do it. We just need to know okay, I want that when this button is clicked, this thing happens. And that's how we all think, right? Like we can imagine what we want. And so now with no code tools, we don't need to like learn how to do it. We just do it. And so that's the cool part about no code. And that's what we're going to do next. So now we're going to build an MVP with no code. And before we do that, I'll just kind of showcase there is a learning curve for all of these things, of course. So when we talked about like Shopify and Wix, those ones are pretty early on the scale of how quick they are to learn. The higher up we go, the more time it takes to learn some of these. So Bubble is known as the most advanced no-code tool. And the reason for that is because of its capabilities, its customization. You can really build anything you can think of using Bubble. Any other, it's basically like coding, but you're not. And so that's the one we're going to use. And hopefully what I can share with you all from this is that if I can get you all to understand just on a basic level how the most complex tool works, it can really show how easy it would be to create other tool or using some of the other more basic tools. So yeah, log in here really quick. Okay. So what we're going to do is create a new app, and we're just going to build off of that idea that we did in the first part of the session. So we're going to do junk removal. And to make this easier on ourselves, we can use templates. So I'll look in here if there's a junk removal template. We'll see if there is or not. No. Okay. That's okay. So I have one in here that I think is pretty universal. They call it plumber service business. Basically any service-based business, I think that this can fit into. So we're going to call this Junk Busters, and we're going to get started. And of course they want you to pay. We're going to do our free trial. Go. All right, there we go. It's loading. Okay. So before we do anything, what I'm going to do is click this preview button up here. So this is just going to show us if we did absolutely nothing to our platform that we just created from a template, what it would look like. So what we have here is find a plumber. What we do is the end user is put in a location. So I'm in Odessa, Florida. Okay, guess it doesn't come up. We have some different options, it looks like, for the projects that we could do if we were doing a plumbing service. We can pick a date when we want that service to happen. And it looks like there's a login/sign up area. And I think that's it. That's all we got. So what we're going to do first, obviously, is change this to trash removal, right? So find a removal assistant, we'll say. So obviously that's nice and easy. Get your trash, get your junk removed. So that's quick. So the first thing I noticed when I was over here is that when I filled in this Odessa, that's where I am in Florida, nothing came up. And so usually when we see a platform, we're expecting it to kind of give us our options, right? Like know where we are in the world. And so I'm assuming what we have here, yeah, so this is what Bubble considers an input field. And so instead of it being an input field, I'm actually going to switch this out for what we call search box. So I'm going to replace that. And instead of it just being a blank field that somebody puts text into, we're going to have it find geographic places. So now if I come back here, we're going to reload this page. So now we're going to get your junk removed. And if I go to type in, it's going to find the actual area that we have. Right? So that was really easy. That's now we're making it really easy for the end user to pick their area. They could put in their address. So if I put in like my actual home address, it will come up. So that's perfect. Now, I think the thing that I will want to change this from plumbing focused projects to our junk removal projects. So this could be like, it looks like they have dynamic information. So maybe we would start with like recycling services or heavy items, like refrigerators and stuff. So whatever we want from those specific options for people to pick, and we put them in here. So I'm just going to make this for ease of time and use, some examples. So we'll do heavy machinery. We'll do like whole home clear out. So obviously we'd have some more defined names, but I think you get the point. So we'd have whatever things that we're doing normally. And so now they'd be picking from those. But again, I noticed something kind of quick here where if I'm an end user, if I'm somebody that wants junk removed from my house, in most cases, I probably have a lot of different things that I want picked up. It's not going to be like just a refrigerator or just my Christmas tree or whatever. It's going to be multiple different things. And so right now I can only pick one. And so what we'll do is change this from a simple drop down element to now be a multi-drop element. So really quick, we'll refresh it again. So now the end user can pick multiple options. So these are kind of basic examples that I'm showing you. And really what I'm just hoping that you can get from this is that these things would normally take a lot of time to build out and change. And you'd need to either keep paying your developer to do this and have them spend maybe like a week on something like this, or using no-code tools, we can do it ourselves. So now what happens is when they create a project, it's going to tell us who's available, the rate they're using. And so now if we spent maybe a few more hours on this, then we would have an entire platform that would help us scale our junk removal business. It could be linked to geolocations. We could even franchise this. If anyone's familiar with the company College Hunks Moving Junk, that's actually a Tampa-based company that did just this. They started by doing junk removal in college, and they ended up scaling it to service people across the entire country. And so they have franchises on college campuses everywhere. And what they had to do was build something that allowed students in those areas to basically leverage their processes and technology to do it on their own. So that's a really good example of like how something like this, where in the beginning we might be fine with that initial AI built landing page to service our local area. But if we wanted to start doing this at scale in other areas across the world, maybe, then we would need to build a more scalable solution. And that's what this is enabling us to do with no code. So I won't go into too many more details of like the boring, complex stuff of how it all works. Now I told you I want to spend some time with Q&A, so we'll do that now. Only thing I'll add really quick is the main takeaways I hope everyone got from all this. So as far as AI, really thinking about AI as a tool to help us rather than something that's going to replace us. And then thinking about the needs that we have when we're talking about these tools. So rather than just forcing ourselves to use AI, just think about the problems we have. Of course, in both of these different types of tools, they're going to be cheaper, faster, hopefully more accurate. And then for no-code tools, my favorite part and why I built my entire platform on it was that it gives me control over it. So if anyone has played the telephone game or has worked with developers, the problem that we always have is we're talking to the end users. They're telling us what they want out of a platform or a product. Then we're going back to a lead developer who's then going to their team. And so there's so many levels of communication that gets lost. But now using no code, we don't need the developers. And what this does, apart from just saving time and money, is it gives us the ability to iterate really quickly and have control over the product and go back to the customer and show them exactly what they want. And because it's so visual, it can be done by anyone and it's universally understood. So that's everything. Again, here's my stuff. And for however much time you guys want, I'm happy to answer questions and talk more about no code, AI, anything else.
Awesome, Logan. Hey, how about a little round of applause for that was a lot of information. Appreciate it. So we have a mic here for anyone live who wants to ask any questions. I see a hand up, and then we'll, Kristen, maybe you can help us interleave some online questions as well. Here you go.
Hey, how's it going? Thank you for the time today. Really relevant conversation. I've actually dug into Bubble myself, trying to build out a web application. I was a philosophy major at Colgate, so didn't know how to code. I was doing this alongside some developers, and when I brought this up to him, I remember him telling me that it would probably be more work for him to backtrack all that I had built and have him plug into what I had already done. So I'm wondering, at least taking the example of a web application, if there's a threshold of a complexity that no-code tools are best for, and if there are any best practices for developers that are supplementing their build with no-code or vice versa.
Yeah, that's an awesome question. So just to give you kind of a background, the platform I built, OpenOcean, was built entirely on Bubble. And the reason it was built on Bubble is because I think I started in a similar space to where you are or were, where I was looking for developers. I spent a lot of time having them kind of coming back and forth with me, trying to build out what I had in my head. And it was just taking so long that I ended up stumbling upon Bubble as a way to build just like a wireframe or like a visual way to explain to the developers what I wanted. And what I realized really quickly was that it was actually kind of eliminating the need of hiring developers. It was functioning. And so I was going to my customers, kind of just showing them what it would look like. And I realized that I didn't need to just stop there. They could use it and they started to like it and they were giving me feedback. And so before I knew it, I was just like off to the races and had pilots going. And so to answer your question and loop it back, I'm really excited about Bubble's direction and how scalable they are and the complexity that they're adding to the way you can build on their platform. There are currently some limitations as far as scale and certain very specific complex things that you'd need to have done. But what's exciting is I think those will be eliminated in the next 3 to 5 years. And really the biggest limitations come in when you're trying to build like the next Twitter or Facebook or something. It's all around like mass adoption type scale. And so what I think Bubble, at least right now, is best geared towards are like SaaS businesses or any type of platform that you can have a decent amount of people using it, but it's not like the hundreds or thousands of millions of people using the platform every second, like a Facebook would. So if you're not in that boat, then I think that it's definitely something that is going to fit your needs.
We have another question from online. How far can you take it? Can you take it to the point where you wouldn't need coders? I imagine robust apps would still be more difficult to do without programmers.
Yeah. So what's really cool about, and when I talk about this, I talk specifically about Bubble because that's the one that I'm most acquainted with. But what's really cool about it is that a lot of their community now, they have a very interactive and engaged community that is really helpful. So if you're just starting out, you can always go to their community and ask for help and they'll teach you things. And a big portion of their community is actually programmers, people that realized early on that they could use Bubble to achieve like smaller projects or things that they wanted to accomplish in like a fraction of the time that it would normally take them to code it. And so they have more and more programmers as like people are starting to understand the power of these tools. So what I would say about that is because so many of the people in their community are like that, they've been continually pushing its limits and making it so that it almost integrates now with many different coded tools. So there's a few companies that I know that started on Bubble that are still primarily built on Bubble, but then they start to kind of interconnect with other tools. So a cool way to think about Bubble in particular is it's almost like an octopus where its tentacles reach out to everywhere. So when we talk about like different complex things that you need to build, we're usually talking about like APIs and plugins and things that's going to connect to other places on the internet. And so Bubble has become really, really good at connecting to other systems and platforms.
Can you give a few examples of like the final outcome of using a platform like this? The example you gave was a web app, but can you use this to create like an app you download from the App Store or an app that you could download onto your Mac? Like what's kind of the range of the types of outputs this can create?
If I could just jump on Carolyn's question, and because I also was going to ask you to maybe just show a glimpse of your platform, which kind of speaks to her question. So maybe a two-part question there.
Yeah. So one part of her question that I'll answer first is that Bubble was historically built for web apps. So that was kind of like their main target in the beginning and up until now. So they are really built for businesses that are going to still be accessed through a browser. But they actually just released, they had like their biggest event that they had last weekend, and they're releasing something in the next few months, which is basically the mobile capability, so that essentially whatever you build on your web app is also now an app as well. So you can upgrade this service and basically like I'll show you my application really quick. So I'll give you like an example of what I mean by that mobile part in a second.
By the way,
So
we've been talking about maybe adopting a platform like this. So we're talking about, looking into it for next year. This gives you a flavor for, what kind of functionality exists. And Logan, maybe you could also just share a little bit about why you did this.
Yeah, sure. So this is our platform. Right now we're looking at it from like the organization side. So this is basically what Travis would see. We have something like a news feed right here. He has a dashboard where he can see all of the different things that are happening as far as the ventures that are being supported, the people in the community, high level statistics like the revenues and capital raised by companies working with them. He has an area where he can see all of those companies and then go into each one and see not only who the founder is and what the company is about, but who's given them feedback and his notes on the company and what program they've gone through and the things that they've done in each of those programs. So he can literally go into their business model canvas, their whatever they're doing while they're in the program and access that information and see what questions they may have had or give feedback on things, whatever metrics they have. So as you can see, there's like so many different like complex areas to where this can go to. And so this is a very specific example of how I built this platform with the initial need of having a place where I, as a founder, could get the help I needed. And so to me, what the biggest problem was that I knew I wanted to start a company. I graduated with an entrepreneurship degree, and I found out pretty quickly that there were still so many things that I didn't know about how to start a business or grow my business. And so I wanted a platform where I could easily find the people in my community and linked to my university who were going to be able to help me with the specific things that I needed help with. So now if I need help with using that example we talked about before with like Air AI, if my biggest challenge right now is sales, then I know I can come in here and see who in our community can provide sales support. And so I know, okay, this is Joy. I can send her a message on the platform. I can also schedule a meeting with her on the platform because, like I mentioned before, what I was able to do is just plug this into Google Calendar and Outlook Calendar APIs so that now she can put her calendar on here. She can select her availability. And so now we basically have like a mini Calendly built into our platform specifically for mentors and coaches to schedule time with the entrepreneurs they're helping. So those are just examples of the different things that I was struggling with at my journey. Another one was we had a bunch of resources available at the University of Tampa, but there was nowhere that we could go to find all of these resources and what they actually meant and what discounts or benefits they provided. It was you go up to the admin and ask them, hey, do we have anything to like help us with a CRM? So for me, I wanted to be able to go through, in this case, I would search for a CRM or just click on HubSpot here and see, okay, we have a 90% off discount by using this platform so that if I sign up with this link here, then I'll access that discount. And then, of course, there's like pitch competitions and things that we ran as well that we helped build out onto the platform as well. So without giving like a full demo, hopefully those were some examples of different like specific things for my problems and the problems of the entrepreneurship center that I was with, that I was able to just build something that would streamline all of that and then combine it into one system. So I know that was kind of a tangent. Hopefully that answered your question. I can also show like some other.
We've got another question, and I think maybe we have time for 2 or 3 last questions, and we'll wrap it.
Okay.
Hey, Logan, thank you for your time. I just wanted to get your input on working with people like yourself, kind of professional service professionals Because I think a lot of people here will try and use the tools themselves, some will do it successfully, some won't have the time. And I think a lot of people might actually engage these marketplace of no code developers, AI developers. What are some of your tips being in the space of working successfully with these types of professionals and doing so kind of in a efficient and hopefully profitable way?
Yeah. Oh, that's a really good question. I wish I had asked a while back. So I mentioned like Bubble's community. So they do have like it's connected to their platform where they have that community where you can always ask for help. There's even, I think, Bubble Marketplace, I think. So like right through their platform, they have a marketplace for people that you can ask for help from. I don't know where to find it right now, but that's one place to access that. There's also other kind of freelance things like Fiverr and Upwork and stuff that is specific to Bubble, and or actually no code. So it's called hold on. But to answer your initial question, this advice that I would give is that and kind of similar to just hiring developers in general, is that the more clear and upfront you can be about exactly what you want, the better. So you still have to remember that they're not in your head. So I would almost say if you have the time to do anything, it would be kind of work on and learn about the design and kind of layout of what you're trying to build. So that way they have something to work off of. And then the more complex stuff, I think, is more geared to them. So if you can do anything, it's create the interface of it and how it's supposed to function. And then if you need help like plugging in APIs or doing complex like calculations or workflows, as we call them, that's where I think the best use of your funds would be when hiring freelancers.
Cool. Any last questions? It looks like we have a wrap. Online. Okay. Logan, thank you again. We really appreciate your time and your offer to circle back with us. If anyone has any questions, we can send them on to you by email, maybe.
Yes. Yeah.
Rolling. And can I assume you'll be willing to share your deck with us?
Of course. Yes. And I'll also add those those previous questions of like what tools and stuff to use. I'll add them in there as well.
Cool. And it's funny that you got to demo your platform to pretty much everyone in our community. So that was kind of handy. But anyway, thank you once again. It was really a pleasure. Be nice next time to have you up here. But this was pretty cool for a remote session with lots of interactivity. Really great job. Shall we wrap it up? Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And yeah, feel free to reach out however we can.